Are you looking for your next book to read for your kid? Are you a grandma and you have grandkids? You need to have books around to read them when they come to your house. We're going to introduce you to some books and an author here on our international talk show, Briggs on Books. Our next guest is Anne Maro Slanina, Ph.D. by the way. You're a professor, is that correct?
I retired from Slippery Rock University of Pennsylvania a few years ago. So trying to focus more on my writing at this
Oh,
point.
good. I always say once a professor, always a professor. But you also taught K-12, is that correct?
I did indeed, yes. I've taught everything at this point in my life.
Yeah.
I started teaching in 1979,
Oh my goodness. Now, did
and I'm
that?
still substitute
Oh,
teaching
you
for
still
my
do that?
local
Good for
school
you.
district.
Being a teacher of the young kids, did that give you some insight on how to craft a child's book, a children's book?
Yes, indeed. The children I worked with and my own children gave me more education than I gave them, I think.
I bet. I bet. By the way, I'm going to pop up some of these book covers for our viewers. There's a series. There's Annie Mouse, is that correct?
Yes.
Tell us about, is there one series or two? Because later on there's something I'm going to read because I'm interested in, is the travel books, the Route 66 books.
Yeah. Well, my first four books in the Adventures of Annie Mouse are picture books for young children. And then there's still the Adventures of Annie Mouse, but they're on Route 66. So there are two photo journals that are filled with my actual photography.
Ah,
So they really are for kids from 5 to 105, really. Anybody could enjoy them because they're historical. So it's very hard when people say, are they fiction or nonfiction? And it's kind of a marrying of the two, because obviously mice do not get in a vehicle and travel across the country, but all of the information in the books is factual, fact-based. So there's two photo journals, and there's a chapter book for children that are readers, and then a coloring book.
coloring book
So
as well.
that's all the Route 66 series.
Yeah.
And then I have my Guardian Angel series of picture books.
Well, it's interesting that you say, up to 100 years old, because it drew me in. The book cover drew me in. I said, I'm going to check that out. I'll probably
Oh,
buy it for a
excellent.
kid as an excuse.
Right. A lot of adults do buy my Route 66 photo journals, and they're great. A lot of people say it's on their bucket list to do it, and as they then, adults will get the books for themselves, and they're picking out things that, oh, I want to make sure that when I finally do this, this is where I stop and I get to see this. And so it's kind of a good preparing for a trip,
Yeah.
and it's good for keeping you on track because it is, according to the states, the red, white, and blue cover photo journal goes from Illinois to California. And then the brown cover one that has the historic shield on it goes from California to Illinois. It travels it in the opposite direction back home again.
That's neat. Surprisingly, there's a lot of people who drive from California to Illinois.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I always say this about children's books. When my kids were small, every week they're going to a different birthday party. And so I would buy books. I wouldn't buy one book. I'd buy like these. I'd buy 10 of them and have them around the house. And every kid, when they went to the birthday party, they're getting that book that year. So it's a lot of fun. Also, I
Right.
mentioned grandmas. I buy my mom books for Christmas, children's books. So she'll have books to read them when they get there. Kids
Oh,
love
that's
to
a
have
great
their,
idea.
Yeah, kids love to have their grandma read them books. So my point is to the viewers, I'm hinting to you, don't go buy one book, buy a stack of these things. You'll get good use out of them. There's always somebody to give a gift to, and
Absolutely.
books.
And I have found that a lot of baby showers now,
Yeah,
as I get invitations to go, it will say, instead of a card, bring a child's book.
that's great.
So, yeah.
That's
So it's helping to build the new parents' book inventory
Yep, yep.
because it's never too soon to start reading to children.
Yeah. I know when I went into kindergarten, I could read. I don't know if I could read or if my mom had read me the same books over and over that I just thought I could read. So,
Right.
so tell us about, can you tell us a little bit about the plots or the series or where it goes? I guess there's a travel component.
Okay, in the Route 66 books, yes, there is the travel component, but the kind of the backstory, the premise is one of the books is called Baby Brother Goes to the Hospital.
Mm.
So the premise is that when the family had that crisis and had the baby in the hospital, when the baby comes home, they feel a need to just go out on a family trip together.
Mm.
You know, it's a celebration of, you know, this baby is now better and we're going to have this bonding experience as a family. So that's kind of how the red, white, and blue cover one starts out with, you know, they're going on this family trip and they're planning it. And, you know, and then of course it takes them through.
Mm-hmm.
But all of my books have that kind of the stream of young children really don't understand adults' language the way we think they are. So in my Guardian Angel series, the very first one was Annie Mouse meets her guardian angel. Annie thinks Mommy doesn't love her because Mommy's a yeller.
A yeller.
And she thinks that means, you know, if Mommy is like, pick up your clothes, do this, do that, she thinks that means Mommy doesn't love her.
Mm.
In The Baby Brother Goes to the Hospital, when the parents tell the rest of the kids the baby has to go to the hospital until he's better, she interprets that as they're sending the baby away because they think that he's bad.
Mm.
So she keeps misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, the books are meant to be read with your children, so you can talk about those misunderstandings of language, and it helps kids build empathy toward adults, and it helps adults understand where kids are coming from. So those books, as a reading specialist, I specialized in bibliotherapy, using books to help bring out those social emotional difficulties children were having so that they would talk about them and communicate and open that discussion. So that was, you know, where those started. And in Where the Rainbow Touches Ground, when Annie hears the story of the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, she thinks that she can go out and find that pot of gold and bring it back to Daddy.
Mm.
And when she gets lost, Daddy finds her. And, you know, after frantically looking all over for her, he finally finds her and lets her know that she's worth more than any pot of gold.
Nice. So definitely there's a message for the parents as well.
Exactly.
Books, yeah. Are there 6 books? I have 6 covers. Are there more books than that?
Oh, I thought I sent you all of them. There's the 4 in the Guardian Angel book. There's Annie Mouse Meets a New Friend. I don't know if you got that cover. That one is about school bullying.
Mm.
Annie's new friend is being bullied and she doesn't know how to navigate that. So that kind of takes the reader through that discussion about what do we do? How do we handle this situation? So that one is, you know, I did kind of for kids in like maybe 2nd through 4th grade, maybe even a little bit earlier, whenever that bullying starts. So there are 4 in the Guardian Angel series. And then in the Route 66, there's the first photo journal, second photo journal, and the family vacation one is the chapter book. And then I just released it this week, is the combination, and it's ebook only, and it is available as an ebook on Amazon and Apple and all of wherever you can download an ebook. It will be available there. But that is a combined first and second photo journal. Both of them are together and could be downloaded on a tablet or phone or whatever.
And of course, this one, the
book.
coloring book.
Right.
Very good. That's exciting. You have that many. What's coming up next for you?
Well, I'm kind of right now. I'm working on. It's going to be really for adult women. I'm working on a series of vignettes with interesting. The working title right now is Stories from a Not So Boring Life.
Okay.
Something of that nature. So I'm just. I've just collected so many very interesting happenings from all my travels. I travel Route 66 every year since 2006,
Wow.
with the exception of 2020 when the country was shut down. And I usually travel in May. And this May, I helped my local school district out by doing a long-term subbing. So I'm not going to travel this year until October. But in all of those travels every year, I've made a lot of friends, met a lot of interesting people, and I collected some really interesting stories from my travels. And then obviously from my teaching, I have some interesting stories about that as
I bet
well.
you do, yeah.
So it's all going to be little vignettes.
By the way, I know we're about out of time, but I did want to touch on, I have your website on the screen, AnnieMouseBooks.com. What would our viewers find if they went to the website?
There's a little bit of, you can actually purchase the hardback or the physical copies. They're not all in hardback. You can purchase the books, but then there's a lot of information for parents on there as well.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So once you're into the Annie Mouse thing, you can go to the website and get the coloring book and so much more. Fascinating, Anne. Any last thoughts for our viewers about your books or you or anything in the world you want to talk about?
Well, I just want to remind adults to sit down and read with their kids. And even though babies aren't going to understand the actual words, that's how they learn to understand. So that newborn baby in the bassinet or crib or whatever, if you sit and read, they're learning the rhythm and rhyme of language, and they're learning, that soothing tone of your voice.
Yeah.
So it's never too early to start reading to them. And then when you do take those road trips, put the electronics away, at least for part of it, rather than trying to keep them quiet. Point things out to them on the roadside, help develop curiosity, and that's helping them develop a vocabulary as well. So no electronics, at least for a part of every trip. Look out the window, identify. In my teaching, I was surprised at some of the, inner city kids that didn't know what a cow or a horse was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those are the things that we build even just by taking those road trips.
That's great. Yeah, I know when you and I were kids, there were no electronics on the road trip.
Right.
We're lucky if Dad turned on that radio sometimes. So anyway, thank you.
Exactly.
And Anne Maro Slanina, Ph.D., by the way, a retired professor, so hopefully you're spending a lot of time writing books now.
I'm trying to work on that.
All right. For our viewers, stick around. We're going to have another author up right after this. Thanks,
All right.
Anne.
Well, thank you for having me.
All righty. Bye now.
Bye-bye.